The next thing I wanted to talk about was overly restricting food, leading to binges. And with the word binge brings up some quite strong connotations in some people, but I just want to point out before we get into the discussion that binging is described as any form of uncontrolled eating where there's some sort of regret. Okay, which if you think about it from that actual definition, it affects a lot more people than we might think. It's not just for like those really extreme pictures of anorexics and bulimics, but it is an issue which affects a lot of people, and it's being talked about a lot more. BED, you may have heard the term. So, binge eating disorder. So, over restriction turning into binge eating. Please let's discuss a bit about that.
The over restriction comes from the emphasis of cardio I've seen, which makes you more hungry and more tired, and the way you structure and approach your vegetable intake, which is another thing that I think is a huge part, which we've discussed multiple times. A protein source as well, or an adequate amount of protein, I think will help as well. We've talked about the combination of protein and fiber, but yeah, the what I see is there's a lot of I see a lot of well, recently this approach towards the shakes. I've seen with a few clients, them sharing with me, I went on the shake diet. Is it I don't remember the name of the company. It might be Herbalife or another name, but they've shared with me their experiences with that and how it was someone that was recommending them. Is that commission based, Faz? Do they get commission for recommending the product? And
yeah, it's a multi-level marketing scheme, essentially. Now, it's not a pyramid scheme legally, but it does look like a pyramid scheme and it does act like a pyramid scheme. But for legal reasons, we can't say it's a pyramid scheme. It is, however, a multi-level marketing scheme. But yeah, the guys from Propane Fitness did a really good video on that recently. Yusuf did a great breakdown of Herbalife, so go check that out. But yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I think the over restriction comes from this, where these approaches are just shit, very shit approaches in my eyes. They don't really teach the person anything. They don't teach long-term sustainable habits. There's no education there. Along with so that's just one recent experience with over restriction. I found there's no micronutrient focus there, which is going to lead to more problems in my eyes. Just drinking a shake. Other things that I've come across is the whole skipping breakfast because they think they're going to burn more fat is another one. The whole carb thing as well, like we've previously discussed, thinking that carbs are evil. There's a lot of things, and what I found is that moderation is just a good way to go. Teaching that it's that over-restricting mindset where you kind of demonize certain things, and then that plays into the whole mindset of how they approach the plan. Whereas when you just kind of take them through like an approach that you or me would do, which would look very similar, but there might be some changes here and there just depending on how it goes. So that's what I found with over restriction, and it's not even to do with the whole calorie thing, because from my previous experiences with doing very low calorie diets versus a moderate calorie deficit, I don't really see an issue with that either. If the appetite is low, I think that is a good thing, and if appetite's low, then calorie intake or energy intake is going to be lower, which is going to benefit you even more. We can. I know that you've touched on starvation mode as well, which I cannot believe exists as well. Like that theory of starvation mode being a problem for fat loss and weight loss. I don't know if you want to touch on that, but over restriction just in general, I think, is that lack of food on the plate, which is the lack of education of how to set up the plate with low calorie foods or vegetables and fruits, or which we've talked about previously. But on the point of over restriction, I would say that is where kind of I would come from in terms of my experiences and with clients. There's a lack of education there. There's no real sustainable approach that they can stick to. there's one client of mine that I'm kind of offloading now, and they're going off on their own, and they fed back to me that they feel more confident than ever in terms of their own fat loss goals. They're going to continue with the approach because they've told me, they feel. I guess what I want to say is there's no confidence in the over restricting mindset. I found that with my clients now, that they're a lot more confident in what works, like really works, and is sustainable. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think confidence is a big thing. I think people that do the over restricting thing, there's no confidence in the approach, or there's no education behind it.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there are two types of people who walk through my doors. The first type of person knows full well they've been overeating, like throughout, say, the lockdown or whatever. That's a very rare type of person, because generally those people, they know they've been overeating, so they just pull it in a little bit and they get on their way before they hire a coach, right? The much more common type of person who goes through my doors is, look, I feel like I'm hardly eating anything. I don't feel like I'm eating much. I still can't lose any weight, and I'm still like 50 pounds overweight. Faz, help me. I'm broken. I can't eat, I don't eat anything, and I'm still gaining weight. I still can't lose any weight. What the hell's going on now? The typical cycle for those people is this. Usually they'll wake up in the morning, they won't have breakfast, okay, because they're too busy. Breakfast might be like a coffee and a croissant. That's it. And they won't really consider that to be a breakfast. It's just coffee and a croissant. So it's just really just caffeine and sugar, right, they've had so far. Then at lunch, there'll be something going around the office, because, come on, let's face it, we know that it's everyone's birthday. If it's not Sam's birthday from account, it's Karen's birthday from whatever, and then it's whoever's dog's birthday. So there's always some kind of cake in the office. So you smash that. So you're still not really at anything which is going to sustain you. If anything, you could argue that those two things are going to make you more hungry going into the afternoon. Then in the afternoon, they still don't feel like they've eaten much. So they've got the kids to pick up from school. Then they play around with the kids, do the homework while they're just snacking on some chocolate, all that kind of stuff. And then by the time it gets to like 7 o'clock for the evening meal, they're like, look, I've had nothing all day. I've had nothing all day, Faz. See, I eat nothing, right? And reality is they probably ate about 1,500 calories worth of just croissants, chocolates, snacks, cakes. It's very easy to do. And if you're sitting there going, that's a big number, then trust me, I know. Like, we work with people like this all the time. So they've already at 1,500 calories, but they feel like they've hardly ate anything. So they need to have a big, hearty evening meal, because I've got a whole day of work to go to tomorrow, and I didn't eat anything today, right? I worked hard. I went to my job, picked up the kids from school, I helped the kids with their work, did an after school thing, all that kind of stuff. I've been working hard. I've been eating nothing. I'm a martyr. Like, just put me on the cross already. So they smash another like 2,000 calories in the evening with a glass of wine to boot, because why not, right? So boom, where we've got a figure of about 3,000 calories. Now, that's most people. Then when you get to the weekend, it's everything just on steroids. It's like times by 10, because like, whoa, all week I've had nothing. All week I've had nothing. I'm a martyr. And so they just smash it on the weekend. Now, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's generally the bulk of what goes through my doors. People who feel like they're hardly eating anything, and they're always hungry because they feel like they're hardly eating anything, and then they tend to overeat in the evenings and on the weekends. So, going back to the point of, well, this is the point I'm trying to make about over restriction. When people start a diet, they take that model and they restrict massively. So they take the morning croissant, the lunchtime whatever, and they replace it with salad, which is not bad. It's getting there. Or they might skip breakfast. But in the end, rather than the 1,500 calories they had at the beginning of the day, they might come into the evening with like 200 calories, 300, because they've had, a salad, a slice of apple, and a coffee, and good intentions. So they get to the evening and they're absolutely starving, or they manage to get their way to the weekend and they're absolutely starving, because they would have been horrified to think they've been eating 3,000 calories a day, when in actuality they have been. They feel they've probably been eating more like 2,000, 1,800, so then they restrict massively down to about 1,200 calories. 1,200 is always the golden number. You ever notice that? You ask someone what they're eating, 1,200 calories, I swear to God. That's like, all right. It's always 1,200. Why is it always 1,200? So anyway, and if it's not 1,200, it's 800. But anyway, so they restrict massively. And then they get to the weekend and they're gone from their previously 3 to 4,000 calories a day, where they felt like they were eating nothing, they've gone down to sort of 800, 1,200, 1,600 calories. So they end up binging. So in the end, during the course of a week, they've nullified any deficit. They've ate it all back on the weekend, or they've ate it all back in the evenings. So in the end, what you're left with is a very stressed out individual who is not losing weight because they're eating back all the calories because of the binge. They still get all the negatives of being in a deficit for most of the week. They feel tired, they get the metabolic slowdown, and they get all the maintenance and or weight gain of somebody who's binging by offsetting that. So they're literally getting the worst of both worlds. That is far more common than you think. Far more